Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're going to mute everybody as we get started here. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. After a long week, it is so wonderful to be able to join with you all here to see the members of our community joining together to celebrate Shabbat. And tonight, joining us not only from Los Angeles, but from across the country as well, as we all welcome Shabbat here together, coming back together as a community to share in this very precious moment. We are especially delighted tonight to be joined as well by the Carson family. Addison, whose bat mitzvah was originally scheduled to be tomorrow morning, but will happen later in the year. But as we are going to start to do, to invite our B'nai Bar and Bat Mitzvah or B'nai Mitzvah to come and join us on the Friday night at least of their celebration, so they can at least celebrate in part that Shabbat by helping to lead us in worship as Addison will. And we're so delighted to have her and her family here with us this evening as well. So we're going to turn to words from the 133rd Psalm, words that we often begin with when we are all joining together. Indeed, even though we are sitting in our separate homes, we are all joining here together. We say, Hine matov umanayim, how wonderful and blessed it is for us to be able to gather here together, to join together here in this sacred moment.
Hine matov umanayim.
welcome Shabbat, and we'll turn to Addison, who we're delighted to have lead us in the kindling of our Shabbat lights.
Yep. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Beautiful. Thank you, Addison. We welcome Shabbat as we always do, as we almost always do, by sharing in the words of the mystics of Tzvat, who would go out into the hillside to welcome Shabbat with these words, with Lecha Dodi. Let's join together.
Shalom. Come in peace.
תוך אמונה
The voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. The voice of Adonai convulses the wilderness. Adonai convulses the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of Adonai causes hinds to calve and strips forests bare. While in God's temple all say glory, Adonai sat enthroned at the flood. Adonai sits enthroned, sovereign forever. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May Adonai bestow on God's people well-being. We are surrounded by angels who bless us every day of our lives. Angels that accompany us at all times. On Shabbat, we welcome two that we are told traditionally come to spend Shabbat with us, to make Shabbat an especially sacred and holy and blessed moment. We welcome them with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharit, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Malachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharit, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Baruchni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharit, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Tzidkechem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharit, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We turn now to Baruch Hu, with which we welcome our worship this Shabbat. And again, if you are able to, where you are, find yourself, if you're able to rise, I invite you to please rise at your place as we join together. How do we bring the awareness of that higher unity into the everyday reality of this world? That is the challenge of sacred living, to realize more unity with patience and devotion to make this world resemble the one on high. And this is where Judaism parts company with the religions of the East. Judaism understands this yearning as a sacred obligation, a requirement for holy living, a commandment. We turn to the words of the Shema, with which we express that unity towards which we are commanded.
Shema
Love is more than a feeling. Love is the way we act. And we turn now to words which express the actions that we can take in this world, particularly as members of the Jewish community, actions that we can take that express our love for God, our expression of our unity with God in this world. And call once again upon Addison, who will lead us in the Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו עטופות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישורך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, לאלוהיכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
We've just completed our celebration of Passover, our celebration of that moment of freedom, which we recognize each time we join together in worship with these words, Mi Chamocha. Let's join together.
Oh
the next slide, we begin to turn towards the Amidah. As we do so, we'll listen to Susan playing this beautiful melody for us and invite you, if you are able once again, to please rise. Addison?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avotim Ahot, V'Meviku La'Libnei B'neihem, L'Ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Uzer Moshiach U'Magin. Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham V'Ezras Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah, Rav L'Hoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechokel Hayim Behesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabbi, Somech Noflim V'Rofeh Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Eminato Lishanei Afar, Michamocha Bal Geberot, Umito Melach, Melech Amit, Umekayeh, Umatzmicha Yeshiva, V'ne'eman Atah L'Chachayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol.
We take a moment for silent meditation. As we do so, we'll leave these words on the screen for you to consider, or the thoughts and prayers of your own hearts, and invite you, as we have been doing over these weeks, if you would like to express your own prayers and blessings in our chat box for others to share in your prayers as well. if you wish. Let's pause for a few moments of silent meditation. We take a moment now to ask for the healing of all those so much in need of healing in this particular moment. Those suffering illness, not only physically, but those suffering illness of mind and body and spirit. We pray for the healing of all. And of course, there are those that we hold especially dear in our own hearts. And as we join together in the words of Misha Berach, words of healing, invite you, if you would like to once again place within our chat box the names of those for whom you are praying as we join together this Shabbat. How are you about following instructions? When you get a new device in your home, do you follow the step-by-step assembly procedures? Do you read the manuals, or do you just kind of figure it out on your own? How are you about following instructions? When you get a new device in your home, do you follow the step-by-step assembly procedures? Do you read the manuals, or do you just kind of figure it out on your own? If you're like me, the answer probably is, it depends. When it comes to assembling something complicated or expensive or following some intricate set of procedures, I'm likely to follow the step-by-step guide. When it comes to issues of health and safety, I'm equally likely to follow the step-by-step procedures. But often the next part of the instruction manual, that part that lists the variety of amenities, the bells and whistles that come along with whatever device it is that I'm putting together, I just ignore that part, kind of figure it out on my own as I go along. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. Often, whether we follow the exacting rules and procedures has a lot to do with how big the risk is. If I'm likely to lose a big investment if I mess something up, or if I'm likely to harm myself or someone else, I'm probably going to be a lot more careful about following the rules and the regulations and the procedures. Things like, for instance, cooking meat to the right temperature, electrical wiring, which scares me to death, a lot of traffic regulations as well. But then there are those things that are more like guidelines than actual rules. The Pirates Code, for instance. Or say the rules and regulations in this week's Torah portion regarding kashrut, Jewish dietary laws. Of course, for some, these are very specific instructions and commandments that have to be followed and adhered to exactly. For others, we Reform Jewish pirates, for instance, they are more actual guidelines than rules. We Reform Jews are much more interested usually in the underlying principles than in the specific instructions and regulations. Shabbat, for instance, is a time of rest, a moment of separation, time of reconnection with family and community is much more important to us than the multiplicity of restrictions on driving and electricity and other modern conveniences that for us make life easier and actually enhance our celebration of Shabbat. Or kashrut as a dietary principle, caring for what we put into our bodies, caring for the ethical treatment and healthy production of what we eat is much more important to us than the intricacies of fleshik and milchik and parv. Where we tend to run into problems is where the lines between rules and guidelines get blurred, especially around issues of health and safety. Speed limits, for instance, are they rules or guidelines? Under 9, you're fine. Over 10, you're mine. Now, you might drive by that guideline, but it doesn't mean you won't get pulled over by someone who considers the speed limit more a rule than a suggestion. If you drive by the guideline, you're sure to get burned once in a while. And too often I have been witness to the tragic consequences that come from blurring these lines. Drinking and driving, for instance. Particularly when we interpret health and safety regulations as guidelines rather than rules, there is the potential for someone to get seriously burned. That is the message that is contained in a brief and tragic story that we find in this week's Torah portion. We come this week to the end of an 8-day period of consecration of the tent of meeting and of the priests who will serve there. Aaron, the high priest, concludes the consecration by offering sacrifices instructed by God, which according to the temple are accepted in a most spectacular and extraordinary way. Moses and Aaron went inside the tent of meeting, we read in this week's portion. When they came out, they blessed the people, and the presence of the Eternal appeared to all the people.
Fire came forth from the eternal and consumed the burnt offering and the fat parts of the altar. And all the people saw and shouted and fell on their faces. Two of Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, watch this miraculous exhibition and enthusiastically decide that they're going to try it out for themselves. Having not received instructions from God, having not been properly trained, their attempt ends in disaster. Fire came forth from Adonai and consumed them. Thus they died before God. This heartbreaking tale has been debated throughout the ages. Why were they so harshly punished? What did they do wrong? And there are no satisfactory answers, really, just a lot of apologetics. Perhaps they did nothing more than let their enthusiasm and lack of patience get the best of them. What is clear is that regardless of their intentions, in a book filled with rules and regulations and specific instructions, particularly for the priestly class, Nadav and Avihu's disregard of proper procedure and safety was their downfall. We have here a cautionary tale of what can happen when the particulars are not followed. Someone's going to get burned. We live in a world that up until last month has encouraged, even rewarded that kind of enthusiasm, rushing out to do. The kind of enthusiasm exhibited by Nadav and Avihu. We might say patience is a virtue, but let's be honest. Few of us are really very patient. We live in a world that rewards immediate satisfaction, that demands immediate satisfaction. We measure time in milliseconds and kilobytes per second. We expect our emails and texts to be responded to immediately, regardless of the time of day. Lag times of literally milliseconds on our computers, our televisions, or in responses to our queries frustrate us. We demand immediacy. Why should we have to wait? So we understand Aaron's son's enthusiasm, don't we? But what this pause in time has taught us is that patience is also indeed a virtue. Sometimes the best action is no action. Sometimes the best action is simply to pause, to take a breath, and to wait. Sometimes rushing into things, pushing the agenda will only lead to someone getting burned. The importance of slowing down, of taking a pause, is in fact the age-old lesson of Shabbat. It is what led someone at the beginning of this Corona time to write, "What if we just acted like it's Shabbat?" We have all tried so hard over this last month to practice patience, because we know if we rush back, someone, maybe one of us, is going to get burned. We know that enthusiastically rushing out like Nadav and Avihu will lead only to more illness and perhaps even death. Nevertheless, we've all got the shpilkas. We want to get out there. It is so hard to be patient as the days wear on, as we hear that the curve is flattening and we hear talk of the return to life. But we must continue to practice patience. Take our time. Follow instructions, respect the experts, and heed the science. stick to procedures in order to protect ourselves and to protect others. So here is the Hebrew vocabulary for this Shabbat, the vocabulary word for this Shabbat. Savlanut, the Hebrew word for patience. The word means at its root to bear, to endure, to tolerate, yes, even to suffer. Patience takes being willing to suffer some discomfort, something most of us are not very skilled at in this age of immediate gratification. But right now, it is what we all need. We must carry the weight, bear the burden a bit longer. It has been wisely said that learning patience is a matter of finding peace and balance with the unresolved and the unsatisfactory, when there is nothing that can be done except to wait it out. This unresolved and unsatisfactory moment demands of us that we find peace and balance, that we wait it out. Perhaps we can find some of that in what was offered at the end of our informational medical forum earlier this week. It was pointed out that in our doing nothing, we are actually doing something really significant and important. We are performing a very important mitzvah. We are protecting the health and safeguarding the lives of others in our community. What could be a more important action than that? What could be a more sacred mitzvah than that? So let's be patient. Doing this the right way, knowing that in practicing savlanut, practicing patience, we are benefiting everyone, keeping anyone from needlessly getting burned. Shabbat Shalom.
Excuse me, before we move on to the Aleinu, a very important act that we perform in the days between Passover and Shavuot. The 49 days between Passover and Shavuot are a time of counting what is called the Omer. We all know what it means to count our days, and it is something that indeed we are doing in many more ways than one in this moment is just shared. And so we count the days between Passover and Shavuot, all 49 of them, with these words. We say, Hineni muchan umizuman lakayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat haomer. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. You can join with me. Let's say this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat haomer. Our praise to you, Adonai, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer. Hayom tish'a yamim la'omer shehem shavua echad u'shnei yamim. Today is the 9th day, which is 1 week and 2 days of the Omer. Amen. And now we will turn to the Aleinu. If you can rise where you are, we'll ask you to once again, please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשחרים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
As we come to the end of our time together, we pause, as we always do, to remember those who are so dear to us. Each of us calls to mind those of our beloved, of our own hearts. We remember the many blessings that they shared with us, the light that they gave to us. As we pause to each remember our own loved ones, we remember especially those who have been lost in recent days, whose families find themselves in the period of Shloshim, or perhaps even Shiv'ah, the first 7 or 30 days, the first month of mourning. We remember Alan Leuben, father of Rabbi Joanne Leuben. We remember Jerry Price, father of Deborah Price, and Alan Golad, grandfather of Emma, Pearl, and Bennett. We remember Hannah Pushin, grandmother of Eugene and Elena, great-grandmother of Aidan and Adriana. And we recall also those whose yahrzeit is observed on this Shabbat, the anniversary of their passing, observed on this Shabbat. We remember Evelyn Berkowitz, Dorothy Berman, Harvey Bolmott, Benjamin Chekanow, Gordon Dishler, Harold Freilich, Sarah Frechtel, Arlene Fredgant, Evelyn Furman, Dorothy Golden, Sam Gottenberg, Charles Greener, Paul Grossman, Fung Ho, Irving K., Louis Kind, Joshua Saul Lobenthal, Rose Mann, Bev Pascal, Ben Pivo, David Schneider, Harry Schnell, Rita Sobolski, Manny Siegel, Ruth Siegel, Catherine Skluth, Herman Solomon, Robert Allen Sturman, Annette Trustman, and Philip Wainman. If you were on with us this evening and you are also observing a yahrzeit, saying Kaddish for a loved one, and have yet to hear their name called out, we invite you to place their name in our chat box as well, as a form of remembrance. As we say of all of our loved ones, Zichronam Livracha, may their memory be always a source of love, a source of inspiration, and a source of blessing. And now again, once again, if you are able, we will rise together and join together in these words of memory. Yitkadal, Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma Divra, Chirutei V'amlich Malchutei, V'chayechon Uv'yomechon, Uv'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uv'izman Kari V'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mavorach, La'olam Ulamei Almaya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal Shmei Dekudsha V'richu. Le'elamin Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Da'amiran Be'alma V'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn, to comfort to all the bereaved among us, and let us say Amen.
So before Addison leads us in the Kiddush, sanctifying this Shabbat that we are entering into, let's join our voices together. Unfortunately, we can't do it actually through Zoom, or we'll create cacophony, but I do hope you'll join me at home. It was the opinion of the Kabbalists and the Hasidim that followed them that by singing together, we actually piece the world back together. Our broken world, we piece our broken world back together by using our voices with one another. And if you think about the breath and Jewish ideas of the breath and utilizing the breath, and that the breath is what connects us to the Holy One of Blessing, it makes so much sense because we can't sing without breathing deeply. So let's all breathe deeply and sing deeply together, building our world from love. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, yadadai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, Olam chesed
With Kiddush, we give thanks for the blessing of the sweetness of this day. And Addison, you have certainly helped make this a much sweeter day for all of us by joining us here on this Erev Shabbat to lead us as you will now. If you have a Kiddush cup, if you have a glass of wine in your home, raise it as we join together with Addison.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitov b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kosher v'ahavat u'ratzon hinhilanu, zikron l'ma'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'ei kodesh, Zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu b'harta, ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodecha ve'achava u'b'ratzon hinhaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha'Shabbat.
Amen. L'chaim, everyone. Thank you, Addison. So before we say goodbye, in just a moment, I'm gonna we'll unmute everybody so that you can wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom. Just a few things that are coming up in the coming days, as you could see there. Chevra Torah tomorrow morning, and Torah Yoga, as always, with Cantor Shapiro tomorrow evening. Looking forward to both of those. We will have a religious school tefillah at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. You could see the rest there. I invite you to join me for a current events class, which always focuses actually on current events in Israel in particular. So we hope that invite you to join me at 10:30 on Wednesday morning. The links for all those things can be found on our website, unison.org. As well as just want to point out jewittathome.com, which is a resource of all sorts of things happening not only in this community but around the country, the Jewish community around the country, all sorts of interesting and fascinating things that are happening that you can participate in, not only with University Synagogue but with synagogues across the country. So it's a great place to look for resources, as well as we are all hanging out at home in this moment. I want to again thank Addison and, as always, Cantor Shapiro and Susan for joining us. This is obviously, we've been doing this for 5 weeks now, and it seems like every Shabbat a new technology golem finds its way into our presence and decides to have a little fun and mess with what we're trying to do. But we are learning and growing together. So on a Shabbat, when we're talking about patience, thank you all so much for your patience. I want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to the Carset family. And I'm going to mute you all so you can hang out. Feel free to hang out as long as you want, and wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom and talk to each other and find out how everyone's doing. Wishing you all a wonderful Shabbat.